What's good, y'all? Welcome back to Rick Knows Hoops. 2 uploads in one day. Did not expect to be doing this, but a lot of contracts were being handed out today. And one team in particular has been handing out a couple deals over the last few days, and one of their best players did not get that contract extension that he was hoping for. I'm talking about the Phoenix Suns. DeAndre Ayton, who had a very good playoff run, former #1 overall pick, wants the max contract, and the Suns are not willing to give it to him. So, surface level, it does not look that bad, honestly. But when you dive into it and see that the Suns have been throwing money around and DA has been one of the players that has not gotten paid, it makes it a little more compelling. So, we're going to talk about it. Once again, be sure to leave a like, subscribe if you are new. And let's go ahead and dive into the DeAndre Ayton versus the Phoenix Suns. So for those who remember, which we should all remember pretty clearly because it seems like last season just ended yesterday, the Phoenix Suns made the playoffs for the first time in like a decade, made it all the way to the NBA Finals, and were 2 wins away from being champions. And one of the biggest reasons to their success in the postseason was former #1 overall pick DeAndre Ayton. And he had a very good playoff run, fizzled out in the finals, played against, of course, Giannis Antetokounmpo, who's one of the best players in the league. So it's easy to, struggle against one of the best forces on the interior that we've seen in such a long time. And this is the summer where the players from that draft class were eligible to get their extensions, or next offseason they will enter restricted free agency. Guys that got extensions off the rip: Trae Young, Luka Doncic, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, probably the 3 best players in that draft if you ask most people. Very deserving candidates, I will say that much for sure. Then it gets a little dicey. You see a guy like a Mikal Bridges, who is on DeAndre Ayton's team, get an extension. I think it was just earlier today he got an extension, a pretty hefty one. If I remember correctly, it was like $105 million. That's a pretty nice contract for a very good 3-and-D wing player, but that's a pretty hefty contract. Then you see other guys like Jaren Jackson Jr., who's been dealing with injury problems over the course of his young NBA career, also get paid. So it's like, okay, some guys are getting paid from this draft class. DA, the #1 overall pick, has had success in the regular season, had even more success in the postseason. Still hasn't got paid, but he wants the max contract. Jaren Jackson didn't get a max. Mikal Bridges did not get a max. Trae, Luka, and Shai did, but they honestly deserve it. They are faces of their franchise. DA is looking for the max contract. He's not getting it. Despite that, he's not the only player from his draft class that has not gotten a contract extension. Colin Sexton, who is a 25-point per game scorer, has not gotten his contract extension, and he probably won't. Marvin Bagley, who has struggled at the start of his career, did not get any type of extension. So it's really like those are the 3 of the top 10 players taken in their class, top 10 pick-wise, and they have not gotten their contract extensions. There's been other guys that have gotten contracts, but not max contracts. But DA thinks he deserves a max. And it's hard to gauge. It's hard to gauge. I would never tell somebody to not try and go get their bag, because you got to make your money. Especially somebody like DeAndre Ayton, who has proven that he is a very good player in this league. My thing is, from his standpoint, I want to see him put together a full season of being a very, very good player. He put together a postseason of being very good. Regular season was a little up and down, as it has been over the course of his young career. So I want to see a full season for him to get, the paycheck that he actually deserves. Now, with that being said, the Phoenix Suns are kind of, I want to say, taking a low blow. They are kind of kicking him in the nuts right now. They are kicking him in the nuts right now because you already got D-Book under a max extension. You give Chris Paul, a veteran, old man Chris Paul, a 4-year extension. Now, I know there's some financial things at the back end of that contract that makes it pretty voidable by the time he reaches, close to 40 years old. But you give Chris Paul a nice contract. Chris Paul, rightfully, deservedly so, deserves that contract. Devin Booker deserves that contract. Those are your 2 best players. You're already paying Jay Crowder, about $10 million. Now you're paying Mikal Bridges, over $20 million over the next 4 years. Now you are paying Landry Shamet, who you just brought onto the team, have not seen him play 1 second of basketball with you. You haven't seen him play 1 second of basketball with you. Landry Shamet's a good player. You haven't seen him play 1 second of basketball with you. Last time we seen him on the court, he was kind of in and out of the rotation in Brooklyn, which is saying something because they were dealing with injuries and he wasn't on the court that much. With that being said, you gave him 4 years, $43 million. 4 years, $43 million, and unable to secure DeAndre Ayton long term. Okay, he wants the max. Kind of reminds me of John Collins last year. John Collins wanted the max. they said, well, no, we're not giving it to you. We'll give you 4 years, $80 million or something like that. John Collins said, no, I'm worth more than that. He ended up getting a little more than that. He got a 5-year deal for about 120, 125 or something around that area. So he got a little bit more than that. That being said, the Suns are kind of, they're giving the middle finger to DeAndre Ayton right now by paying other guys that, well, one, Mikal Bridges, I really love Mikal Bridges' game. I think he does deserve, he's a little more on the underrated side, so I'm glad that he got his payday. And you got to pay your guys to keep him. But then you go pay Landry Shamet, who you have not seen him play 1 second with y'all. And you pay him, you know, almost $11 million a year for somebody that you have not seen play 1 single second of regular season basketball in the Phoenix Suns jersey. Kind of odd to me. DA has, I think, improved each season. Even though last year his regular season numbers were down, when you've seen the production in the postseason, he was a drastically different player once the postseason came around. Arguably, like the first couple of series, could argue that he was like their second best player. You could argue that, especially in that Lakers series. And in the conference finals, he was as impactful as I think anybody on the court. He was doing it on both sides of the ball. The small ball game that the Clippers were trying to run could not take him off the court, and he was being pretty dominant. So the Suns are in a weird position. My thing is, I believe they're going to eventually end up paying DeAndre Ayton. Now, how much money that will be, that decides on the way that he plays this season. So he has to really take this kind of personal. Bet on yourself. Go get the max contract that you think you deserve. Go get that money. My thing with the Suns, you're probably going to end up having to pay him, even if he's not worth the max, you're going to have to pay him close to that max money, because Phoenix is not really a big free agent destination. And when you have a good center in the NBA, you have to keep, like, you really have to keep them around. Same thing, prime example, the Utah Jazz. Rudy Gobert is not, you know, somebody, when you think about $200 million contracts, he's not somebody that's instantly going to come to mind and be like, he deserves 200 M's. No, obviously not. Rudy Gobert is a great defensive player, doesn't really provide too much offensively, but he's an amazing defensive player, defensive anchor. And the reason why the Jazz paid him 200 M's because they had no other choice. They had no other choice. It's the same reason why they paid Mike Conley another big bag this offseason. They didn't have any other choice. You have to pay guys that you want to keep around, because when you're a small market team, you don't really have too many other options. You don't have too many options. You're not going to be a big player for these big name free agents. It's just not the case. If Karl-Anthony Towns became available, probably not going to go get Karl-Anthony Towns. That's just the matter of the fact. You're probably not going to go get him. Sorry to say, but that's just how small market teams work. Look at the Bucks. They had to build in a more unconventional way through the draft, and not through top lottery picks, through middle first round picks, making a trade for Jrue Holiday, making a move for Brook Lopez, PJ Tucker, Bobby Portis, other guys like that. That's how you construct championship teams when you're in a small market. You don't have the luxury of being an LA Laker team or a Miami Heat franchise, or even the Golden State Warriors. Like, you don't have those luxuries of being able to bring guys in. It's just not the fact. The Brooklyn Nets and Knicks, like, you don't have the luxury of being a big time market. Phoenix is not a big market, so you have to be lucky and be able to trade for a Chris Paul. You have to develop a Devin Booker, a Mikal Bridges. You have to be able to bring in guys like Jay Crowder. You got to draft high, get a DeAndre Ayton. You have to really bank on those opportunities when they come your way. So with that being said, I think Ayton's gonna end up getting paid at some point, but it's a weird situation. If I was him, I would definitely be pissed off about it right now, because you show that you've improved. You show that you can contribute to a playoff team, a team that was a couple games away from winning an NBA championship. And this is kind of how they're treating you. They're like, we don't think you're worth this. And then with that being said, they go and pay Mikal Bridges. They go and pay Landry Shamet, who has not played one game of meaningful basketball for you yet. Weird situation. I know seeing other guys from his draft class get paid. Like Kevin Huerter just got paid. We mentioned Shamet. We mentioned Mikal Bridges. And all the guys in the offseason, Shea, Trey, Luka. And there's other names that got paid too from this draft class. Wendell Carter got paid. Not a big bag, but he did get paid. And I'm sure it's frustrating that DeAndre Ayton's not getting the money that he thinks he deserves. But that should just be added fuel to the fire for one of the better players on one of the better teams in the league. So I'm expecting him to come out, play a full season of his best basketball. If he wants to get paid, he should be able to, play his best basketball this season. So, weird situation, man. The Suns, get it right, man. Keep your guys around. You guys have a nice young nucleus with, Chris Paul, chance to win a championship possibly. So, keep you guys happy, keep you guys around. Hopefully this situation, you know, doesn't boil over. And, you know, it said he was kind of unhappy. I'd be unhappy if I didn't get the money that I wanted to. I would definitely be unhappy. But like you said, man, he a hooper. Just hoop this season. Show why you was the #1 overall pick in your draft. Show why you were, you know, one of the biggest contributors to a championship team last season. Just prove them wrong. Shout out to DA. Shout out to the Suns. Hopefully this doesn't turn into anything more than it is. But that's 2 uploads in one day, man. I just had to get, you know, this situation talked about. I appreciate y'all for tuning in. Leave a like, subscribe, all those good things. And I'll be back tomorrow to talk about some real NBA basketball. I'm so excited. I'm out though, y'all. Peace.